All right. And then we have somebody typing. So I'll wait for you to type. Um, all right. So we're gonna go do it as normally, where um, we could talk about, well, I already have it set up that way, so I can't change it. Sorry about that. But yeah, we're gonna get into the normal, and then we're gonna get into the project at the end, the group project, and then we're gonna share the changes Brendan made into the project, the group project that we have going on. And if anybody's interested in the group project at the end, you can go ahead and let me know. Give me a second. We'll just get going. I like to give everybody a little bit of time to show up if anybody else shows up. Other than that, how's everybody's weekend going? Everybody's weekend going good? Anybody want to type or chat? It's up to you if you want to go for it. Yeah, I like the SpongeBob, the crazy looking SpongeBob. That one's funny. SpongeBob always makes everybody laugh. Let's see. Well, I haven't seen SpongeBob since I had my first kid, so maybe I will soon now that we've had our a newborn. All right, just smooth sailing, can't complain. Excited for Halloween getting closer. Oh, Halloween? Yeah. Do you do Halloween parties or something? Not cool enough for that. In it for the candy. All right, I was just asking. I love Twix. Yeah, Twix are good. I was just asking because I had friends that used to do Halloween parties. They used to do big Halloween parties where everybody, like a big costume party. But I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. I remember they used to be, but you don't hear about them a lot anymore. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, so normally when I start, I like for the newbies like Code IRA, Chantal. I don't know how to say that one. Janice. I don't know if you pronounce the X or not on that one. And Cole Kindred. Cole Kindred seems a little familiar. I'm not 100%, but if you guys don't mind if you want to share a little bit about yourself, how you found us, why you're attending the event, and what your current level of experience is, you could type in the chat or you can request to speak on stage, whatever you're comfortable with, if you like. And if you don't want to say anything, you don't have to. Like if you don't want to chat, you don't want to share anything, you don't have to. So don't feel pressured. Well, you found it at Eventbrite, and I'm living in Germany. Whoa, Germany, huh? That's interesting. Did you have to use a VPN to find the event, or like do you use a VPN, or do you don't use any VPNs, but it's I have visibility out there in Germany. I'm just curious. I'm a student in school right now, majoring in interactive design. I want to know more about coding, how I deal I first joined. Eventbrite proposed it to you. All right. All right. I was just curious. I was curious how it showed up in your feed, like if it's out there in Germany or if Eventbrite showed it to you, it's likely the ads. All right, so actually, I think that I found it too on Eventbrite, code IRA. But we can get into that in a little bit. To answer your question, maybe I could get into it now. Uh, just to give you a basic understanding, because I think you said you're in school right now. You're majoring in something that sounds like something tech. I'm not sure if that's web dev related or not. It sounded like it the way you're talking there. Yeah, through Eventbrite. All right. So, and it depends. In interactive design is more front end dev. All right, I see. I got you then. All right, yeah, that's what I thought. All right, so yeah, front end development, back end development, and then full stack development. So of course, full stack developers they do both. Front end developers, you're just gonna be doing basically what it says, the front end, like the front end logic, and depending on the framework you're using. If we gave an example and just like, because I know it's a little bit blurry in a framework, if I give an example in a framework, it might be a little blurry depending on your level of experience. So like, if I gave an example in just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, your front end functionality, like the most common example would be like if a user clicks a button and something usually happens, usually it's triggered by an event with JavaScript code. So that's the kind of like logic you'd be writing for front end logic. Besides HTML, when you're, if you're embedding YouTube videos or anything else like that. CSS would be more like everything looking pretty, like all your styling, everything looking pretty. On the back end, you'd be doing more like API or server requests and doing like basic CRUD operations. And there's many other things you can do on the back end, but this is just basic. And you'd be dealing with like pure logic. You don't really do all the pretty stuff you do on the front end. And it's a lot harder. Back end development is harder. There's a lot more going on there. I guess you could say on the more heavier side of web development or application development. That's probably the most difficult part of any project is the back end, and finding a good solution to integrate, and then, deciding on a database if depending on how you, or if you're just linking straight to someone's API, depending on what you're doing. But at least if you're going to be going to school for it, the very least you should be learning right now is how to use APIs, like what is an API and how to use it. Because there's a lot of APIs out there where you can get data from, and you want to learn how to use APIs and understand how all that's going on as at least as a main part, because I know that I know that if you're going to go apply for jobs, that's one of the main things they're looking for is besides all the other skills that go around. But if you're applying for a back end or well, actually, even a front end. I've seen where front end jobs want to know at least you understand how APIs are working, even though you're likely not going to integrate an API working on the front end. But basically, yeah, mainly the back end and full stack. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, the back end's a whole different. It's related, but it's like a whole different skill set. And full stack developers are expected to have a handle on both skill sets, front end and back end. So that's what makes it harder to be a full stack developer, because you're not just specializing in one area or the other. All right. So most people they like to specialize like more on one side or the other. So and then you definitely, if you're gonna go for front end development jobs, you're definitely gonna have a lot more competition there. Uh, all right, so my name is Cole Kindred. I've been working as a vehicle service technician for AMR for the past 4 months, and before that, I spent 6 years at Amazon in various roles. Service with the California Autism Network, and I am really excited to be here. I'm particularly interested in coding and eager to learn more about cybersecurity. Looking forward to connecting and learning with all of you. All right, so you want to learn about, so Cole wants to learn about cybersecurity. All right, so I'm not an expert in cybersecurity, but I know a community of people who are. And then my sponsor, New Camp Coding Bootcamp, the boot camp I work with, that I work for as a ambassador and web developer. They have a coding boot camp that specializes in cybersecurity. So it depends on what your interest is. If you're looking for a community where you just want to connect with cybersecurity um, individuals, people that specialize in that field, or are trying to break into that field, or if you're trying to get into a boot camp or both, you can let me know and I'll get you links for both. Um, but I'm gonna go over some of the material for the boot camp for my sponsor or my I also work with them. They have they put themselves out there as the pretty much like if they're the number one boot camp in the United States with the best rates, the best structure, the best offerings, basically. And they do. They have really. They definitely are. As far as United States boot camps, coding boot camps go, they definitely are the least expensive and like the most affordable, like they say, like they advertise. And they also have like payment plans, all that stuff. But they where you can pay zero until you graduate, and then they also just recently added a cybersecurity program. So that's up to you if you want to go that route. But if you're looking for free sources, I could connect you to a network of people, of cybersecurity individuals, where they can help you out with that further. All right, so I'll get into. I think if that's it, if nobody else is sharing, I'll get into the slides that we have really quick. Oh yeah, so before I do that, I'm gonna share my screen. You guys can let me know if you can see my screen. Mm, for now, it's just going to be Discord, but at least if I get an indication that it's coming out okay, I can move forward. All right, so I didn't get any indication. Anybody that you can see my screen? Everything's okay. It looks like it on my end, like you can see my screen, but I didn't want to assume. And then yeah, all right, good. All right, thank you, Brendan. I just wanted to make sure, double checking, because I didn't want to assume, and then I'm over here talking and talking and talking again, and somebody's like, "We can't see your screen." All right. Uh, yeah, here we go. So these are my slides I share with people about a little bit about my experience and paths into tech, things like that. Um, who I am, for those of you that don't know, Fernando. You just call me by my first name if you want. I'm fine with that. I'm a New Camp Coding Bootcamp graduate, so I graduated from New Camp Coding Bootcamp, and I also work with them. At some point after I graduated, they hired me, and I work as an ambassador and web developer for them. Student at the University of Advancing Technology. So yes, I am a university student, and I'm currently majoring. Well, actually, I'm currently doing a double major in computer science and artificial intelligence, and I'm going into my senior year soon. And I also completed an 8 month long software engineering apprenticeship where I did pretty intense pair programming with senior software engineers, and the senior engineers I learned from were probably about a dozen of them, a lot of them, during that 8 months. I'm also founder and CEO of Dark Mode Devs, and it's been going good. It's been going good. All right, so why a career in coding? I guess everybody has their own way to answer this question, but I guess for this purpose of the slides, the tech industry is booming, shows no signs of slowing down, and yeah, it is. It's growing, especially AI is the big thing right now. And it does. What does it mean for you? It does mean that there are opportunities out there. There are opportunities out there too. So, like I know for some people that have been applying for jobs, it feels like it's really been a tough market. But I think it's more that it's tough competition. that there's so that the market is saturated right now, and you're literally competing with a lot of people, and so it makes it tough. It gives it the appearance of being tough to get a job just because of the amount of people that want to do software and the amount of applicants, especially for front end roles. That's why I tell people, if you have the mind for it, um, apply for back end, apply for maybe a back end role, like learn back end, of course. Don't just apply for back end roles while being unqualified. Like, you want to make sure that you're ready, basically, that you're job ready, and that you're able to and that you understand what a back end development role is, and that you build projects. Like, it takes a lot of work, but if you can get into back end development, you're going to have a lot less competition. So, like, examples I give people would be, like, when I've seen back end roles, there's sometimes 5 to 15 applicants, like very few, maybe sometimes just a couple applicants, depending on the role, and the level of experience they're after. But for entry level, probably like 5, 10, or 15. But with front end, you're gonna see like hundreds or thousands. Like, that's how crazy it gets for front end, because everybody getting into web development wants to be a front end developer, and mainly because front end development is easier than back end development. Back end development is tough. Um, it's a lot tougher. All right, so going past that, oh yeah, full stack developers too. If you want to do full stack development, that means you got to have a solid handle on both. Why a career in coding? Um, there is high demand, like there is demand for software engineers, but not just any type of software engineer. I guess, like, anybody can call themselves a software engineer, right? Um, but it really comes down to, that's the whole purpose of um, the technical interviews that they do, because they really want to make sure that you can do what you say you can do on your resume. Because the truth is that it's against the law in the United States to lie on your resume, but I've seen that a lot of people do. They embellish their resume. They call it embellishment, where they say they can do things that they really can't, just to try to stand out. Or some people straight up lie. They say they've done something before when they've never done it. So, like, in the United States, that's illegal, but I've never heard of anybody getting in trouble for lying on their resume, like, legally, like with the authorities. Maybe that's something they just don't have resources to be chasing. Um, but I have heard of people ruining their reputations because they've gotten caught lying on their resume. Um, all right, so discouraging that, of course. So you always want to be honest on your resume, because it's gonna come out if you get to the technical interview. It's gonna come out. Like, on the technical interview, like, for anybody that comes to me for training and I'm working with them, as soon as I assess their skills, I usually pull the covers right there. Like, I'm able to break it, like really show them, like, it makes you vulnerable if you're coming to me, but at the same time it shows you where you're really at, because I have a way of assessing you to let you know whether you should be applying for a job right now or not. um, what does this mean for you, though, besides all the stuff I was talking about? Was that more opportunities for juniors developers? There is a lesser demand for degrees. So what they mean by degrees are university degrees. So there are jobs out there, they want a university degree, but that's not the majority of them. The majority of them, they don't care if you have a degree or not, as long as you have the skill set. That you got to demonstrate that you have the skill set, that you've been through some kind of training, like a coding boot camp or something similar, right? That you've been through some kind of training. Some places don't even care about that, because you have self-taught, where you can have, we'll get into that later, but where you basically didn't go to any institution to learn anything. You learned on your own, but you were able to pass technical assessment and demonstrate that learning on your own, you were able to make yourself job ready. And that's a lot harder, but there's people that are capable of doing that, and that's also an option too. So that's why a lot of people like software jobs, because there's so many ways to get in. You don't have to have a college degree, but I say having a college degree is a plus because there's roles out there um, that that when they require a college degree, there's less competition because not everybody's out to get one, and you're gonna find a lot of or you're gonna find opportunities for like an apprenticeship or a um, internship that are available only to college students and nobody else. So like everything has its pros and cons. But normally universities they don't want you applying for things like that till you're in your senior year because they don't want to say that you have the skills necessary for that type of job until you're like in your senior year, junior or senior year. At my university, I believe it's the senior year. Once you start your senior year, that's when they're able to like if an employer contacts them and they know you, like your GPA, they all have experience with working with you, like your professors. Like I have professors in my network that will write me a letter of recommendation because I've held a 4.0 GPA every semester since I've started, and I've also worked with them. I've attended their software classes. They see the work that I submit and what I do, and they're willing to put their neck out on the chopping block because they know that um, well they worked with me. They see what I can do. So like that's the plus. And that I talk about with college degrees, even though it's a lot more money. And maybe you'll find somebody in your network that's willing to do that for you. That's maybe at a coding boot camp because there's coding boot camps that do that for you, but that's the ones that have hiring partners where depending on how you do, they'll consider whether they're gonna stick their neck out and recommend you to their hiring partners. So there's coding boot camps that do that too. So the average estimated pay says 70,000. That is probably about right. That was in 2023, but that's still probably about right for an average in the United States. For but like that's I've seen on the low end like in the 55,000. I think only one 45,000 on the high end, probably 115, 120 ish, something like that. That's on the high end. I haven't seen the high end in a long time. So if you're out there looking at jobs for front end development, you'll notice that there's not very many offering that high anymore. They're probably anywhere between 70 or actually 65 and 90 right now, the more commonly. Um, so they do offer great starting pay either way. So I'm gonna say that there's a lot of people that maybe you even know or maybe you're one of them that works a job that's not tech related and you're working full time and you're still not making the 45 or 50,000 a year that I talked about was on the low end for software engineering, right? Um, and that's another reason why people want to get into coding because the money because you start off with more money than most jobs out there and if you're successful in your career um, you're gonna get a lot more than that as you level up in your experience. So, um, yeah, and this is right too. Many developers making well into six figures and multiple six figures, depending on their level of experience. Maybe senior engineers on the multiple six figures. Some senior engineers they're able to charge a lot of money. They're able to charge uh, like one of the senior engineers I'm working with right now, or me and him are both actively working together. But right now we're waiting for one of my clients to um, decide if he's going to push forward with another contract with us, and if he does, then like this senior engineer, he values himself at $300 an hour. So think about that, like $300 an hour, or we got to come up with a flat rate to compensate him, plus be able to compensate myself and get the job done. But that's you're paying for experience when you get to that point, right? So like that's how crazy it could get. Most people, when they're just starting, they'll say that they're worth 25 to $50 an hour. United States, and this is United States figures. Some people, some junior developers, depending on their level of experience, they'll charge $100 an hour, right? But you don't see that more often. More often, you see like 25 to 50, somewhere in that range. All right, so we're gonna keep it moving, and that's like freelancing or contracting or that's not normally if you get a tech job full time, they're gonna make you an offer for a salary. All right. So, which means that basically, if you don't know what a salaried means, salaried employee means that it doesn't matter how many hours you work, you're guaranteed a certain pay. So, like, more than likely, you're gonna work 40-hour week, if not more, maybe even a 45, 50-hour week. But your pay's never gonna change. You're never gonna get extra because you worked overtime because you're a salaried employee. You're gonna agree for that yearly salary, and it's gonna be broken down into the months that you're performing, or however, whatever agreement you make with bi-weekly, week, or monthly, or whatever it is, and or even weekly. Everybody's got their own system, but it's going to be broken down that way. In salaried employees, it doesn't matter if you work a ton of hours that week. You're not going to be compensated overtime for that unless there's some type of agreement in place. Most of the time, you're not. Uh, all right, so what about AI? I don't believe AI is going to replace developers, but I believe a developer that knows how to use AI really well is going to replace you. So AI is not at that level where it can maybe at one of these events I can do a demonstration again how I've done in the past, how AI is lacking because some people have a perception that it's like, you know, it can work all the wonders in the world for them, but I'm telling you right now AI actually sucks when you get to a certain level of coding. Like if you're using AI for coding and you're already at a certain level, it gets to a point where it cannot help you anymore. It can only help you with maybe boilerplate simple little snippets of code accurately. It can't help you with any kind of sophisticated logic or any higher end like logic. It can't do it. It's just it'll give you something, but it's gonna be trash. It's not gonna work, and it's gonna be littered with bugs. And if it does work, it might not even work the way it's supposed to work. But I've done an event where I've demonstrated why AI sucks, and I picked holes through the AI's code, all that stuff. It was all right. It was pretty fun, I thought. How much difference would it make in your life if 9 months from now you were making 70,000 a year? Well, I say it makes a difference in anybody's life, especially if you're not making that much right now, right? If you're making 70,000 a year, uh, I mean, of course, nothing's guaranteed because you can still get fired. So, I try to tell people like you get your first job, do your best because I've heard of people in my network, very few though, very few, um, where they share like horror stories where they're excited because they got a job and they got a good offer, maybe 90,000. They got on the little higher side, and they're excited, and then a month later they got fired, and they either got told why or they didn't get told why. Usually when they get told why, they always disagree. They say that they disagree that that wasn't true, and then they try to blast them on social media, which I don't think is good, um, but I think it's mainly because maybe the employer thought you were ready, or maybe you somehow passed the technical interview and they hired you. But then when it was time to actually apply your coding skills in a different context on a
I,
real world project or code base, you just couldn't do it. You could, or either that, or you
good
just didn't
afternoon.
work well with people. All
Did
right,
you hear me?
so yeah, we can
Can
hear
you
you.
hear me?
We can hear you, but
Okay. I just want to say good afternoon, and I'm gonna mute now.
all right. And who is that, Jose? All right, Jose. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So thank you for meeting. All right. So yeah, you good afternoon to you too. So then we're gonna keep going. Oh yeah, we have updates too on the project too, Jose, the group project. So that way you know if you're sticking around. All right.
Oh,
So
that's great. I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
all right. So why is there so much demand? Because it's hard. So that's what I tell people. Most people they see the easy side of coding. You know, let's learn some HTML and CSS and little itty bitty JavaScript, and that's it. But it's actually harder than that, especially when you got to be fluent in your programming language and its logic, and and then you got to have a good handle on whatever framework you're trying to specialize in. So and then you shouldn't be copying and pasting code off the net or copying and pasting projects off the net, like watching YouTube videos and copying and pasting projects off the net because we all see them, we all get them. A lot of us are subscribed to YouTube stuff. I know I get it in my feed because I look up technical stuff, or I try to like I used to produce technical stuff. and then I write technical articles. So I get technical articles in my feeds. I get projects in my feeds. I get all this stuff that people are selling online or that they're giving away for free. And I've also seen some of that stuff in some people's projects, or how do you say it, portfolios, and that's not good. So like if there's something out there on the net and it's everywhere, like it seems like it's almost like, even though it might not be viral, but it's just out there, it's established. It's something you don't want to copy and paste and claim that you built it, because everybody's gonna know you didn't build it, especially if it's in the same stack that the guy put out there. It's different. Like I say it's a little bit different when you clone something without actually copying the code. So like for example, if we looked at YouTube, for example, and we said, you know what, let's build our own copy of YouTube, but we're going to build it in a tech stack that's completely unrelated to anything we've ever seen online. I think that would be more impressive than just copying and pasting offline somewhere, of course. I mean, but that beats it any day. Like that kind of duplication is like shows that you were trying to learn the process of what YouTube's doing and what it takes to build something like that. Because that's definitely a full stack. It would be a full stack project, and there's so many frameworks out there you can use. But if you're trying to do that with React, there's already people out there selling courses, or they're giving away for free how to build a copy of YouTube with React and whatever other part of the stack they have, and that's like lame. If you don't want to be doing that, because everybody knows. Just to give you a heads up, you want to like make sure your projects are unique, even more unique than that. Like you don't even want to clone if you don't have to. Maybe you have ideas, or maybe you can help with that, get help with generating ideas, and then turn that into a project, or into a full stack project, or a front end project, or back end logic, or whatever your specialty is, and turn that into a project to showcase and to talk about, because that's more unique than anything. That's going to make you stand out more than all these projects people are copying and pasting off the internet. The four pass one is the luxury option. Well, that's what it's called here, the luxury option. I don't really feel like it's the luxury option, but hey, that's what it's called. That's what New Camp put on here, the luxury option. I guess because you're dedicating. I guess it's because you have to have the time to dedicate 4 years of your life to school, and not everybody has that time. Or at least I believe everybody has that time, but not everybody believes that they have that time. Like some people, they just believe that that's impossible right now with the things I got going on. I can't dedicate 4 or 5 years to university right now. Also, and you're gonna get a lot of on in debt. So like if it's either gonna cost you a lot if you're paying out of pocket, or if you qualify for the loan, it's gonna cost a lot when you graduate. You're gonna pay that loan back. It's gonna be a lot of money, and not everybody qualifies for the grants. And even if you get the grants, it's still a lot of money. So um, yeah, but the university is a lot more in debt. So it says here that in the university you're going to receive a broad education touching on a lot of branches of software engineering in general, but it's actually a little more specific than in general, because I go to the university. They teach you a lot about computer science, which does touch on software engineering concepts, the software development process and principles and things like that. It touches on different programming languages, but you learn, and then it also touches on they also do data structures and algorithms and big O analysis, but they have you building projects that are different than YouTube projects, and and you're expected to write these showing language fluency. They if they catch you copying and pasting code off the internet, you get an F. You're gonna fail. They'll make you do it again, or you just lose out depending on how long the time goes. But besides that, they go very in depth with these things, because if you think about it, you're spending 4 years studying this stuff. You're not spending 6 months or a year studying this stuff. You're spending years studying this stuff. So they have time to get more in depth about on these concepts about all
Dime,
of these
hermano.
things. Yeah. What is that?
Dime.
Yeah, I can
Oh,
hear you.
no, no, I'm talking to my friend. Answering the phone.
Uh, so can you mute yourself, please? Just because we can all hear that. All right, I'm gonna have to give you a server mute for now. I'll unmute you when I do the Q&A. All right, back to what we were talking about, traditional boot camp. But the boot camp is different, of course, because boot camps, they're all saying that they can get you a job in 6 months to a year. Some of them 6 months, some of them a year. I think that is possible. It's not impossible, but it's not possible for everybody. There's a lot of people where um, they can't, I guess you could say, from what I've seen, they can't process the information or memorize it that quickly. So, like in a boot camp, they're trying to give you everything that you need. They give you the knowledge that you need just to start. That's it. Like that's any boot camp. They're gonna give you the knowledge you need to build apps, but it's gonna be more at a level to get you into a job. Like basically they're trying to get what you need to get a job, and then give you that knowledge, and then get you that job at some point, depending on the boot camp. That's how they work. Their goal is not to make you completely fluent in all facets of software engineering. That's not what they're trying to do. Because that takes longer than 6 months. Um, I've seen some people have a lot of success in 6 months. Like I've seen some people uh, go 8 months and then they get a job. But it's because they went through the boot camp, the same boot camp I went through, but new camp coding boot camp. Like I know a couple guys that I went to the university, or I'm sorry, to the boot camp there. And at the end of the boot camp, they got React front end React developer jobs as a front end developer, because they show you just enough to get your job. But you're expected to, at that point, to continue to educate yourself, to continue to research and build on those skills. So like they're going to give you the skills you need to know web development, depending if that's what you're getting into, if you're getting into web development. But um, it's up to you to build on that and to build projects and to keep studying, because it's like a lifelong learning. Like I tell anybody, even at the university goes more in depth on things, but the university doesn't isn't gonna continue to like, for example, the best example I give people is when I was at the apprenticeship. So for example, I was learning at the university, I already finished the boot camp, but the things I learned at the apprenticeship working with those senior engineers was way different. Was like took me to a whole other level. And that's something you can only get with having an experience like that. So and then that's when I knew at the end of that, well, I could work for someone else or I could run my own business at this point, because I was confident enough in my skill set to know, like, even my mentors there, they told me straight up, you got all the tools you need to be an entrepreneur if you want. And they valued me. They told me that charging people $50 an hour for me would be on the extreme low end. That they told me that if they needed someone with my skill set, they would pay me $100 to $150 an hour. So that tells you that, right? Like, um, and some of them were senior engineers, and they're getting paid 250, 280, 300 an hour, and on the higher end. But I give people that example, that you're gonna learn a lot, like in depending on the context where you're learning. And that's what I try to do with my mentorship program. When we get to that, is I try to the experience, that the things that I learned and the knowledge that I gained from that apprenticeship, um, I try to teach people to that level, to that same level. I try to give you that. I try to give that back to you in my mentorship program. Because boot camps, they're good, and some of them have good hiring partners, and people do find success there. But it depends on your style of learning, and whether you have the budget for that or not. And boot camps are on the lower end, like I said. New camps on the lower end as far as budget goes, like they're the most affordable. And then you have boot camps that are on the higher end, where they're like 20, 30, $40,000 boot camps. So it just depends on where you're going, and what your goals are, and what tech stack or what part of engineering you're trying to get into. Because there's so many tech stacks, there's so many, like, different arenas within the field. It's crazy. All right, so teach yourself online, which can cost you nothing, and you're learning all on your own. And if you can navigate that, great. Some people can't. So like I tried to do self-taught when I first started. I didn't like it because I felt like I was out in the middle of the ocean, and all I could see was the sky everywhere. I couldn't see land anywhere. I had no guide, or no, I didn't know where the hell to go, what I should be learning, what I wanted to. Like I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know. Like I needed more direction. I wanted more concrete answers than Google. Like some people are fine with Google when you know nothing. Some people will just look it up on Google and they're okay with that answer. But you Google, depending on what you're Googling, you're going to come up with so many different answers. I wanted something more concrete. Like I wanted like more something more definite. And then that's when I started looking into coding boot camps, and I started my journey with New Camp Coding Boot Camp, and it was great. I thought it was a great experience. And I met a lot of great people there that are still in my network, and I learned a lot there that I still use even now, because they teach you the skills you need to work in web development. So if you're building web applications, a lot of those skills you're going to learn there, you're going to be applying even if you're freelancing, or even if you're an entrepreneur type person, or even if you get a job somewhere, you're still going to apply the skills that you're learning there. It's going to continue to move with you. So they teach good, or they have good curriculum. Um, the other thing was, I guess I guess not everybody can do it though, self-taught. So like it just depends on what type of person you are. You'll know with time, but I can definitely say that with self-taught, you're gonna spend more time likely teaching yourself than you would if you went to an institution. So like if you go to like a coding boot camp or university, everything's mapped out for you. They got the curriculum for you, everything's mapped out for you. Like they know where they're trying to lead you. Even in my mentorship program, like I give you an assessment, and then at that point I know what to do with you. um but when you're all by yourself, you don't get none of that. You don't get no one-on-one feedback, or from anybody more experienced than you. You don't get no roadmap, or no, nothing's mapped out for you or planned out. You don't get pointed in all the right directions. Like you got to literally find your own way. So that's what sucks when you have zero experience with teaching yourself by yourself. But it's possible if you're okay with that. Getting a mentor, I talked about it already. So we do 5 days a week on the evenings where we do one-on-one mentorship, or group mentorship where we meet in a group, and we start with programming with JavaScript as your programming language, and we learn problem solving, and of course everything that goes into learning a programming language, like the concepts, the tools, and all of those things. We start with the programming language because it is the toughest part, and I start there on purpose because I could start with HTML and CSS and butter everybody up, right, and make everybody feel really good about it. And I But what I really want people to do, I want to get people excited and feeling really good about the programming language, because that is the most important part of it. Because if you can do HTML and CSS, or any of those frameworks out there like HTMX, or like if you can do something like Tailwind CSS, or Bootstrap 5 or whatever, all that stuff doesn't matter if you can't program, if you can't use your programming language, because uh, CSS and HTML, they're not programming languages. It's code, it is technically code, but there's a difference between those and a programming language. Programming languages are things like JavaScript, Python, C++, Java, those type of things that you've heard of, like the mainstream ones. There are many other programming languages, but those are the main ones that I'm mentioning. Um, but I bring those up because it doesn't matter how good you get at all that other stuff if you can't wrap your mind around the programming language and actually use it, and build and build your logic. Like in other words, come up with an algorithm, design an algorithm, and then translate that into code, into JavaScript code, and then have it, and then be able to go through the rest of that process, like testing it, timing it, optimizing it. There's a bunch of steps we go through. If you can't wrap your mind around that, the toughest part of it, then when we get to a framework, you're going to really struggle through a framework, and you're not going to be hireable. That's the reality. You won't be hireable if you really don't have a solid understanding of programming and your programming language. Um, you might be hireable at some firm that wants you to just use HTML and CSS for their emails, because there are some people that they'll score like their first gig is HTML and CSS emails, and that's not bad, but that's not going to get you that tech job where you're making 70, 80, 90,000 a year. That they don't pay you that much to to write custom HTML and CSS emails. Um, all right, but this is what we thought. We're talking about getting a mentor, one on one. It's me and you, all that stuff, all the good stuff. Um, these are stats on if you're going at it alone online, you usually have a 5 to 15% chance of completing the course that you're working through, unless the course has 7 strategies built into it. And the reason why I bring this up, because all of these institutions have these strategies. So if you think about coding boot camps like New Camp, they have these strategies. The mentorship program has these strategies. The universities have these strategies. They all have these strategies built into them, like these places that are like that are more like a learning institution or learning type of with an instructor or somebody. It's usually they have these strategies, or most they likely have these strategies implemented that I've seen. Um, Normally, if you're working on an online course like Udemy, for example, you're not gonna get. You're just watching a recording and you're copying whatever they're doing. You don't get, you know, the immediate feedback. You don't get to work with other students. You don't have a live instructor. You don't get a lot of things that you get when you go to something more organized than that. All right, so you need to put skin in the game, and I always tell people is when you have your money invested into it, then you're gonna feel it. You're gonna want to be there, because it's like me with the university or even the boot camp. I don't know. I can start with the boot camp because it was a lot cheaper. So when I got the loan to go to the boot camp, I qualified for zero down until I graduated. Even though I had to pay zero down until I graduated, I knew that when I graduated, I had to pay whether I graduated or not. So I was like, I'm not gonna pay this much money, even though at the time it was probably close to $5,000, because New Camp got cheaper since then. Now they're about 3,000 or less. But I was like, I'm not gonna pay this amount of money and fail. I'm gonna be there every day. And then I knew what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. Like, I already knew that this is what I wanted to do, and I showed up every day and gave it my best. And you feel that, like you feel that, right? Like even if you didn't put all the money up front, you're gonna feel it one way or the other. Especially if you failed and then later on you have to pay back the loan. That's gonna really suck. Um, The other thing is, I talk about time here, like putting your time into it, because time is precious, and where we put our time matters, right? Because our everybody's time is limited, and you want to make sure you're investing your time where it really, really matters. Um, you need real deadlines, so I mean real deadlines, not Udemy video deadlines. I mean, like, you can get a course online, and like I said, if it's just a recording and you're following along, that's not a real deadline. You can go back to the course anytime you want, submit the assignment anytime you want. They don't care. It's just a video that they sold you, a recording that they sold you. Um, or even if it's a free one, there's still no real deadline. You're not going to be held responsible if you fail to meet that deadline. But at these learning institutions, you will be held responsible if you fail to meet the deadline, because you're going to fail or get kicked out, or you're going to get fired in a real life setting, right? Or even if you're a contractor or a freelancer, or even if you own your own company eventually one day, and you fail to meet your deadlines with your clients, um, imagine your reputation that you're building there, or that's gonna be bad. Um, all right, so and you got to combine different ways of learning also, because synchronous and asynchronous are different types of programming in JavaScript. But I'm just going to tell you that you need to take courses that you can go through at your own pace, and you need to do coursework that is done in a group with other students, or collectively, like with students and your instructor at the same time, basically. Um, That's basically what we're saying here is that you want to have that system in place where you're not just always by yourself, where you're getting feedback from from other students, and most importantly, you're getting feedback from whoever's the instructor is or professor or mentor is, whoever it is, however they title themselves, whoever that person is. You want to make sure that you're able to get that feedback from them at some point. Um, you need peer pressure, but the good kind. And I mean like the kind where your peers are pushing you to grow, to improve, and to do the work. Because everybody could be, especially if you're doing a group project, everybody could be depending on each other, right? You're all depending on each other to get things done. You and your work need to be seen. That's the other important part is that the work you do, you want it to be seen, like you want it to be evaluated by somebody that already knows. So like yeah, it can be evaluated by your peers, like your other students. Like okay, maybe you guys can help each other, and that could be at some level that can be really helpful. But it's even more really helpful when you have your whoever the instructor or professor or mentor is evaluate that work and really let you know, like break it down, because that's what I do. I really break it down and I let you know what you didn't do, what you could have done, what you did do right, and what you can improve and things like that. I try to I hammer on it because what I'm trying to do is get you to get really 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 good at it. Oh yeah, six. Geez, my mouse wheel. All right, so um, you need end of course incentives. I guess you could say that I guess you could say, I guess one good argument is that if you believe in yourself and it's something that you really have a passion for, you're gonna do it. But like if you don't, if you have doubts and it's a drag, then you're not gonna do it. You're likely gonna quit, or maybe you shouldn't have been doing it in the first place. But like if you can get in the right mindset, um, that's the important part, and then understand what your incentives are at the end. Besides like some people have like besides that piece of paper, I mean like like you might, it might be a certificate or it might be a degree. um, um those are good, but I mean like sometimes there could be like maybe an offer to work with a partner, or maybe help getting you going with freelancing or whatever the case may be. Some places have different different course incentives along the way. Those are just the immediate ones. And sometimes there's certificates like in intervals, like you know what I mean. Like sometimes they do it like in intervals. Sometimes it's one at the end. It just depends. Like New Camp, they do them in intervals. A university, you don't get a degree till you graduate. You know what I mean? Things like that. Let's see. You need assignments that actually help you get a job. So like I was saying before, like we like you know what I mean, when you want something in structured that teaches you what you need, that's gonna get you job ready. And besides that, the projects you're building are actually gonna gonna help you compete and actually get you an interview, because not all those projects, like I said, out there on the net are gonna work. Like it's one thing if you're building a to-do list, like you hear about that a lot, like especially in full stack or beginner projects. You'll see like if you look them up, like most you'll hear about like a to-do list, for example. Um, like it's one thing to build just a to-do list, and especially if you're building it in the same stack that it's you can just copy and paste it off the net with. But it's one thing to build it and make it completely different, like unique, like put your own touch on it in some way. Give it different functionality than just some normal to-do app, and build it in a stack that's probably not um, primarily on the internet. So that way nobody can say you copy and pasted it. You know what I mean? It's more like unique, more genuine. Because I'm telling you right now, like you could build in any stack, any JavaScript framework, and you're going to get really good no matter what, because like once you understand JavaScript really good, you can go to any framework you want and you'll understand it better than if you went straight to React, for example. Like if you didn't learn if you only learned very little JavaScript, then you go straight to React, and then the whole time you're doing React, it's going to be harder for you to understand React, or any other framework. Like if you try to transition to another framework, you're going to struggle badly because um, your JavaScript skills ain't strong enough yet, and you've only seen just React snippets, just React. You want to like, I don't know, I guess I could say you want to kind of like, the better you are at vanilla JavaScript and the better you understand it, the better you'll be able to just pick up any framework. But the ones that are hireable are definitely Angular, React, and Vue.js. Those are probably the three that you're going to hear about a lot. A lot of people want to learn stacks that have that incorporated into them because that's what all these tech companies are using. But what checks all the boxes? Of course, New Camp Coding Bootcamp, like I tell people, and they do their best with their curriculum to get you your first job in tech. Um, these are all the boot camps they offer. Like I told somebody that was here, that they have a cybersecurity boot camp, and the tuition is 2,538, and with my link I can get you the early bird discount, which will put you at 2124 around here. These are estimates, but they're pretty accurate. So it's a 15-week course, but it'll put you, that's how much their boot camp costs for 15 weeks of learning cybersecurity. You'll be learning the foundations, ethical hacking, network defense, and security, and that's cheap compared to most boot camps out there that are going to be minimal 10, 15, 20, then 30, $40,000 on the high end. Um, and then we have New Camp. The Web Dev Fundamentals is the cheaper one. You get a small discount, but it's because this one alone is not gonna make you hireable. It just, what it does is it introduces you to web development and helps you decide, well, if you're gonna like it or not. But if you've done HTML, CSS before, you'll like Bootstrap. But if you've done these before and you already know you like it, then you're gonna like really like any of these boot camps because they have front end, back end, full stack, and cybersecurity, and then they have job hunting where they help you get a job at the end. They get you interview ready, teach you algorithms, or you study more algorithms and data structures, and then you do more networking, and then they help you build your social profiles and your resumes, and again help you apply for jobs, those type of things. This next one is the complete software engineering path. This one is all those boot camps into one. So you get the fundamentals, then you get the full stack, and you get the back end, which is more in depth because you're going to be doing both JavaScript and Python, and then you do job hunting. So this one is the, like if you could do full stack, do full stack. But if you could do this one's like the I would say, like if I could go back in time and redo the boot camp, I would have done this one. But they didn't have this boot camp when I started. When I started, I just, all they had was the full stack, the front end, and the back end. But the back end was different. It wasn't Python. It was just JavaScript. Um, but now they got Python, and they're teaching you some DevOps, and they're going more in depth with data structures and algorithms. So like it's a good one to take. But the full stack is still, I think, in my opinion, that full stack one here is still like, if you're not gonna go with complete software engineering, the full stack I think is the better one because you're gonna get exposure to front end and back end development, and then you're gonna be able to make your choice. It gives you more options because that's three different fields you can apply for a job for: front end, back end, or full stack developer. Right? That gives you more options than just one. Unless you already know where you want to really specialize. If you want to, like I said, in back end development, you're gonna have a lot less competition. So yeah, the most affordable, flexible, structured. So the important thing is that they're structured, and this boot camp is structured. They do have a Discord community too, where all the instructors and the students interact, and they have AI tools that you can use to help during your learning, and then they have their curriculum and everything else, and then you're going to be working through the courses. You can do part time or full time, and depending on your schedule, and then You'll meet with your other students and your instructor and spend time with them and learn more. So yeah, it's a good structure. You also get 5% off the registration fee, and I can get you the big early bird discount depending on if you're using my link. So hopefully you'll use my link, and I do get a kickback. So I'm not gonna lie about that. It's you use my link, it does help me. All right, so full stack JavaScript development mentorship program. So my mentorship program is currently 50% off, $50 a week if you want to join the group. It's 125 a week if you want one-on-one mentorship. But I put this one out there because most people join the group because it's cheap. It's cheaper and more affordable, I guess you could say. But we can either the goal is either going to be to learn full stack development, but I've also had like a student come to me because they were learning JavaScript at the university they were attending and they didn't understand it. So I spent a month with them doing JavaScript, and they were able to pass their JavaScript university course, and that was the purpose for their mentorship. So like it just depends on what you're coming to me for, basically. Um, all right, so we've got oh yeah, we went over all these boot camps. We ain't going over them again. All right, and we went over these already. I'm not going over those again. But I encourage you to if you know software is your passion, coding is your passion, to keep pushing to get it, to go get it. And I'm gonna unmute Jose now for Q&A time. So if anybody's got any questions or any questions for me, or anything you wanna talk about. All right. So Jose, we could talk about that, but we're gonna have to talk about that maybe later on during the meeting when we have time, because I wanted to get um, to Brendan's contributions on the group project. So we're gonna get into the group project, and then me and you could talk about any questions you have with with your loan with New Camp. All right. So um, Brendan, yeah, I'm gonna
Hello.
what was that?
I just said hello.
Oh yeah, hi. Yeah. All right. So I was gonna go over the group project we're doing very briefly, and then have you share the contributions you made recently. All right. So if you guys can still see my screen, right? All right. So let me kill these slides. All right. There we go. And Miro. That's right. Whoa. Zoomed in a lot. All right, so we got this project that we're working on for the group project. Let me go to the GitHub real quick just to open the GitHub, and then we'll go back over there. All right, so we got the app itself. I guess the idea of the app was that it's going to be an AI platform. We're intending people to use it on their mobile phone, but we're using Bootstrap to build it, so we're going to have to make it fully responsive for all viewports. But the majority of people, or maybe even all people, will likely use it on their phone because that's the intention. But there's a reason why we didn't want to use a mobile development framework at this time, like React Native or Flutter, and it's mainly because to make the project beginner friendly. And we're going to talk more about that with in a minute. All right, so we got the original idea was an AI platform where users can where the AI informs the users regarding the safety of the foods or drinks that they're consuming, the ingredients, because what they're going to do is they're going to upload the ingredients in the form of text or images, and the AI is going to process that information and give them information on those ingredients or the foods, any known issues with them or any safety concerns, or just things like that, just things you hear about, as far as your health, what you should and shouldn't be consuming, depending on the type of ingredient it is. Like most of us already know which types that we shouldn't be consuming, but most people ain't that conscious. Most people, you see something good, you consume it anyway. Like I'm kind of guilty of that too. Like I'll see something and it looks good, and I'm like, oh yeah, especially if it's a sweet. and I want to just eat it. But with an app like this, if you were able to take a picture of the nutrition label and get feedback and see what's going on in it, it might make you think twice. You might be like, well, I thought this was a good idea, but it's got this stuff in here and maybe I shouldn't. Because sometimes those ingredients that they have on the back are kind of, I guess you could say, uh, depending on the naming convention, right? Like usually scientific or something like that. Like not everybody knows what those things are. Some of them you do just because of mainstream health concerns, but most of them you don't, and maybe you want to find out. So that was the intention of it. Um, so the project itself, we have documents here on the Miro board. We're using it as somewhat like a project management, just so a free project management. We did do some brain writing at some point, but we stopped because we have all the main of everything that we need just to get to the minimal viable product for the app, like just to get it to the minimal level where we get it to just the basic functionality, get it where we can test it and have users use it, get feedback, make it better, and see if we can monetize it later on. Um, but we have this app flow, and this app flow right here is the main one. It's labeled main because it's just the original idea. It's very bare bones, but it's still going to be some work to implement it. This app flow version 2 it incorporates a little bit of changes, and then we're going to probably have multiple versions if it succeeds, depending. This is the style guide for the color scheme and branding and things like that. And these are the wireframes. So anybody that's not familiar with wireframes, we did lo-fi wireframes or low fidelity wireframes where you can do them with pencil and paper or with a computer. We did them with a computer, so we have these. Of course, these are bare bones. The app's gonna look way better than this, but the whole point is just to like basically map out your layout, your UI, and some of the interactivity going on with your on client side and things like that, like what a user would see and how they would use it. But this is what it might look like on a phone. This is what it might look like on a desktop. This one's more like what it might look like on a desktop here for, oops, for, yeah, let's see, let me click on that. All right, well, let me just escape. All right, so you see it, you got the idea. You can play with this if you would like to, but like this is just like an of how it might look a little bit on the higher fidelity side, but not too high fidelity. This is still pretty bare, but it gives you an idea what it might look like. It still looks pretty cool, like with the color scheme and stuff and the light mode. And then we have, of course, we got to make a dark mode for it, but we'll get there. But this is the tablet version, and then of course it's coming off the screen because it's scrollable. It's just um, letting you know that it's scrollable, that the rest of it's going to be scrollable. Let's see. Oh yeah, and then we're using for our project management too, we're using for our tasks. We have our different teams. So the design team's already done. We don't have any marketing team yet because we're not that far yet. But the design team is done. They've done all their tasks. They've completed it. So where there's different stages here, we have who's on the team. Like here we have the development team, like anybody that wants to code. So this is the development team so far. And then we have our tasks, which are here. If you see a task that should be that's not here written, and maybe you want to do it, you can write up a sticky note for it and paste it here. Um, and then what we can do is when you want to work on a task, you just grab it and you basically move it over. That's it. Just move it over and put it in task in progress, and then you put your name on it to let us know that this is what you're going to do, what you want to do. And then we go to completed tasks. Here is when we complete a task. We want to move it over here and put our name on it that it's been completed. All right. And then the GitHub. So this is the GitHub where we have our development branch. This is where we mainly want to have the first phase of I would say the app running and is in the dev branch before it goes to a production branch or the main branch. We're not going to just push to the main. We should be pushing, if anything, to the development branch. And this is going to tell you more, like this README. It's going to tell you more, a little bit more about the project. It's built with bootstraps. Can tell you how to connect to the GitHub using cloning. Cloning, I went with cloning because I think that's just the best way to do it is to clone. Um, and then we've got the command to run it, to run the dev server and things like that. Because it's using, I believe this one's using Parcel as a dev server. And then we've got the, yeah, all right. Oh yeah, contributing license and things like that. So it still needs more work here. It's not done yet, the README. So the README could be reworked, get a little better. I could probably do that sometime. All right, so besides that, we do have contributors who are collaborators. I mean, geez, yeah, I always gotta do this, but it's better to do this. Give me a second. Where are you at? All right, there we go. All right, so here are the collaborators. We got a lot of collaborators, and we got one pending invite from somebody. All right, so somebody hasn't accepted the invite, but if you're watching the video when I post it, you still have a chance to accept it. Otherwise, you're gonna lose your chance. And I think believe it'll time out, or I'll end up deleting it if you don't accept it. But we have everybody here that either intends to collaborate or and make a contribution, or who has made a contribution. So I believe the only contributions have come from me and Ryan, Zalola, and Brendan, wherever Brendan's at. I know you're on here, Brendan, somewhere. I just don't know if you have your picture on your GitHub.
Yeah, it's there. I think I'm up toward the top
All right.
somewhere. Here I
Okay,
am.
there we go. Yeah. All right. All right. And there's a lot of people on this list that were like, oh yeah, Joseph, I think made one too. Joseph Broccoli, I believe he made one contribution too, if I'm not mistaken. All right. So, but there was a lot of people on here. I think Hadil is more. He ended up telling me he doesn't have time. So I should actually get rid of that. But I wanted to leave him just in case he does find time. So Hadil actually is more experienced, but he didn't have the time to actually contribute that he thought he would have. But there's a bunch of other people here that are like beginners. And what I was trying to do was somebody, or oh yeah, Zalola made a contribution in native JavaScript where we're gonna have an entry point for the app, and then JavaScript's going to build the app from there. And the app's basically going to be built with just straight up just JavaScript, where it generates the HTML, the CSS, everything, or the bootstrap or whatever we're doing. There's a way to do that in JavaScript, building custom components and all that stuff, but that's a little bit more advanced than beginner. And I didn't want to lock out the beginners, so I was trying to get a contribution going, or I was gonna do it myself. But Brennan stepped up and said that he'd do that. Right, Brandon? That's what you did, right? Where you reversed that, where you took that and then changed it so it's HTML, SCSS, and JavaScript files.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, I just moved all of the JavaScript that was being all of the HTML that's being generated by JavaScript. I just put that on the index page so that it's all together. Um,
All right, all
yeah.
right. We'll have to check that out. Yeah, cause I'm curious to check that out. All right, so yeah, so we're trying to make it more beginner friendly now, so that way, like anybody coming in, even if you have like very little experience, you're able to contribute. Because I know most people that are just learning, they're not gonna understand concepts like DOM manipulation and how to manipulate the DOM tree and how to use JavaScript to build an app just in straight up JavaScript, like all JavaScript. Like most people, they don't teach that. Like at beginner levels, they usually teach like HTML, CSS, and then a little bit of JavaScript. But when you're going that heavy into JavaScript, it's usually more advanced. All right, so but you want to get to that point. Anybody that's just learning, you want to get to the point where you're going beyond that, and you can do that with JavaScript. Because if you can build an app natively in vanilla JavaScript, then you're going to be at a point where when you go to a framework like React, you're going to be a beast. Like you're going to be really good at it because you already understand a lot of the concepts that carry over to that framework before just jumping straight over to the framework itself. All right, uh, that's enough of me yakking, I guess. So let me get Brendan to. Do you mind sharing your screen, Brendan, and talking about your contributions?
Yeah, let's see. I don't think I have permission to share my screen. There we go. Now I do.
Yeah.
All right, so if I share and then so I share this. So do you see the GitHub now? Is that showing up?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I
You
see it.
see GitHub and then okay. So first of all, here's what our project looks like so far. So the changes I did don't change the appearance of the web page at all. It was just the architecture. 'Cause I just recently got involved in this, so I didn't want to make any uh, content changes yet without knowing a little bit more about where we want to go with this. But as you can see, we just have a simple template for how the homepage is going to look, and then we have this nice splash screen that shows up for a couple seconds at the beginning. So what we had before, as Fernando was saying, is that I think this is kind of there's nothing wrong with it being laid out this way. In fact, in a lot of ways, this for a more advanced project, this might be the better way of doing it. But for the purposes of this project, wasn't going to work because it needs to be accessible to people at any level. So I think people were coming in here, and you can see this is how it was before. This is the HTML for the home page, and the body. There's basically nothing here. And it's like, okay, where's it coming from? So how this worked before is this app, this JavaScript function here, takes this string and it says create element. So this creates a HTML element and adds this HTML inside that tag. And then you're maybe wondering, okay, where is header coming from? Where is homepage coming from? Where is footer coming from? Well, those are in these separate JavaScript files. So you're wondering, so where it says header and development, that was all the way in this file. So the way it was set up here, you would have to know how you'd have to have a basic understanding of JavaScript in order to even find where the HTML is and where you would have to go to make changes to the title and everything. So since we wanted to make this beginner friendly, I'll show you the changes that I made, and feel free to veto any of these changes, or if you think I should have done it differently, that's totally fine. But I'll just show you at least one way of doing this. Is I just brought everything to get everything that was being generated in those separate JavaScript files. Now I just put them together on the homepage, on the index.html. So disadvantage here is that this page is going to have a lot more text here, which could get a bit cluttered. But this way, even somebody who doesn't know JavaScript can come in here and say, and they want to add the footer here. They'll be able to do that, and of course CSS is here. They'll be able to modify the CSS and the HTML here without having to go into the JavaScript files. So one thing that JavaScript that is important to be aware of here is that the splash screen here, the JavaScript file, where is it? Yeah, here is going to make the splash screen show up for 2 seconds at the beginning. But even if you didn't know how the JavaScript works, you could still come here and make any changes you wanted to the visual layout of the splash screen up here or to the CSS. So hopefully and then probably what we end up doing is then we'll have a separate HTML file, I would imagine. Correct me if I'm wrong, but for each of the screens. So this will be the home page, and then we'll have another one for each screen. Then of course we'll have to use JavaScript to be able to navigate between them. But that's the change that I've made so far. So feel free to let me know what your thoughts are about this, or if there's anything I should do differently.
No, I thought it was headed in the right direction for beginners, to like, because I had a couple beginners in the past when we made the initial change, reach out to me and DM me and tell me that they don't know JavaScript that well and that they won't be able to contribute. So then that's when I was like, all right, it's gonna be a problem, and I didn't want to just make a group project that was only accessible to people that had some type of experience. I was trying to make it inviting so that way people with even zero experience, if they wanted to get involved, they could try to learn something from it, or try to or see whatever they're learning online. Anybody that's just learning and whatever they're learning online or anywhere, when as they're learning, they could come in here and be like, okay, so how do I apply the concepts I'm learning over there, over here in this project? And that's what I was trying to do, give them that space to build a group project with people, and then at least get at least because we're not using a paid platform like for project management like Trello or Asana, so it's a little bit willy-nilly over there on Miro, but at least get an idea of what that might look like, right? So like that's all I was trying to do for to make it a little more beginner friendly. So I think it's good as we continue to work on it. It's a little more beginner friendly, but yeah, you're right. The HTML, it's gonna get long. It's like, as we develop it this way, that the HTML will get long, like it'll get crazy. And then instead of having like different files with different components for JavaScript, we're gonna have one long HTML file with all the components just laid out on the HTML file, and then hopefully we can get to a point where we can transition the CSS into at least CSS modules where it's similar to the JavaScript modules. We'll see how it goes. I'm just kind of like wondering how we can do it, because with CSS we can do variables, and then we can have different CSS files for different components, and then but with the HTML, yeah, with an HTML file, the way we're laying it out, we're gonna have no choice but to have the Bootstrap components all laid out in the HTML file, and it's gonna get lengthy depending on whether it's gonna be a single page application or not. So that's just to give
Yeah,
everybody an
we
idea.
do have and we do have the over here we have CSS organized for the splash screen, and then this is the animation. Like you see the splash screen, see the animation here. You can see that happening. This is the CSS animation for that, and then it looks like this is their main styles and our fonts. So yeah, but that was my concern about doing this. Is like, yeah, this is gonna get convoluted. So I don't know
It's
if you
gonna
had
get
any
nuts.
thoughts about if there's a way around around that, because
I
it
usually use
it seems like if we're
comments. Like me, I usually use comments to separate the components. Like I'll put like a comment that says like, hey, like how kind of like on line 13 where it says splash screen there. I would have like a comment that says, splash screen, and then at the end of the splash screen code, I would put like end of splash screen. And then, like that's how I would do with
yeah, there should be.
comments. And then like with spacing using white space, because that's like maybe add one line of white space too with the comments between everything. Like that's the only way I do it when I work in files like that, because there's no other way. And there's tools we can use where that are that where we can kind of build components in different HTML files and then import them that way, but that's a little bit different too. But I don't know if that's gonna make things confusing for people that are beginners. Like I was trying to slowly introduce them to things like that rather than try to like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know how to say it. Like I didn't I just know that like depending on someone's level of experience, they're not gonna it's gonna be either too confusing or it's gonna be too difficult if we just jump right into native JavaScript like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not gonna be able to control like I didn't want to feel anybody to feel like we're locking them out. That's why. Like you know what I mean? Like if it's gonna be too hard for them, I wanted to at least cater to their ability while they're learning. Because some people told me that they're learning at some other institution or somewhere maybe online. They're self-taught. Like somebody I believe was self-taught and they're learning online too. But they want somewhere to be able to come and um, apply what they're learning and then if we don't do it this way, it's gonna lock them out. They won't be able to do that. Not at a beginner level anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you, Brendan, for the changes and everything. Um, I think it's good. And then pretty soon I can reach out to those others and let them know that we're changing that we changed the architecture on there and they can go ahead and come back in and try and see if they're willing to make any contributions. But most people are subscribed to the YouTube channel because I post these videos on the YouTube channel, and they'll get the notification, and whenever they can watch it, they'll be able to, you know, get the update. Hopefully, they can get back involved. Uh, Anybody got any questions? Like Hisser, Cole, Chantal, Andreda. What do you
I
think
really
about
like
the?
your idea about adding another comment. I feel like just that one additional comment at the end of the splash screen makes
Yeah,
it
like
way
it
more
helps.
readable.
Yeah, it
So
helps it like separate the components, like because you know we're
yeah,
using
yeah,
Bootstrap components. So if we have commentation to separate each section like that, it's gonna make it easier to like, okay, this little piece right here is this component, and so if they want to either add it or work on it, that's how I think if we continue to add it or work on it like that, it'll make it readable, more friendlier. Because if we just have it all just like how you were saying, it's gonna look willy nilly and cluttered, and they're gonna be like, "How the hell do I navigate this?" Like me or you are gonna know how to navigate it, but they're not gonna know how to navigate it. They're gonna be like, what the heck is you know?" And they might accidentally change something where they didn't intend to make a change. Uh, are we
yeah,
good?
yeah. So do you want me to go ahead and make that change? Just add another comment and then make a new pull request because that's a super easy change to make.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't mind, yeah, that's cool. Um, what do we got? I thought somebody was typing and I didn't see. All right. I was gonna ask Hisser or Andretta because they've been around for a little bit. If the changes are okay, like what do you think about the changes? Because I know Andretta, you were learning somewhere. You were just learning. Hisser, I think you're still learning. So I was wondering if those are no questions. Agree with the white space. All right. Um. All right. What about Chantal or Co Kindred? Any of you guys have questions? All right. Jose, any questions from Jose? Do you like the project? Do you think the project's good? All right, just in case. All right. Well, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Um, but yeah, I think that's good. I like that. Um, is anybody that's here? Do you, any of you guys have interest in joining the project, like Chantal or Co Kindred? Because I think you two are you two are the only ones new here that I think. Um, if you want to join the project, if you want to be able to contribute, you would have to send me your email It doesn't matter what kind of email, your email and your GitHub username if you have a GitHub. If you don't have a GitHub, you'll have to create an account on GitHub and then send me your GitHub username. But if you don't have a GitHub, you're going to want to get one and start learning how to use GitHub. All right, someone's typing. All right, somebody was typing. All right, I guess not. All right, so is it like, okay, so anybody that's new here, was there anything you want to go over for the last or the last 24 minutes? His or his typing. All right, let's see. All right, it says right on with the changes, Brendan. I at least hope for the white space since it will provide that separation between the code blocks. So yeah, that's the problem with the HTML though, is that when we write all the code on, or most of the code on the structure on the just the HTML file like that, and we're not just using JavaScript, it does do that. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but there is uh, a third-party library we could use to incorporate those changes even in an HTML file, so that way we can separate the components, and then you basically import them in one line, and then so that way when the browser runs the code, it's going to run it as if it was all written in one file. Like, if that helps give you a visual on how it works. I just can't remember right now because I haven't used something like that in a long time. But there is that tool too that helps. Most people use them for like things that are going to stay the same throughout every page. So like if you're building like a multi-page application, for example, sometimes even for a single page it could work. But if you're using a multi-page application, for example, and like for example the nav bar and the footer is the same across the pages, that's usually where it's most commonly used. Because so you don't have to worry about copying and pasting the same code on every page, or you don't have to worry about all that. You just it's just literally one line of code where each of those go, and then you bring in all of that code with it when the app's running. So it makes it easier, makes it more readable. Um, but then we have an HTML file littered with one-liners. So like either way, but I mean that's a lot more easier to read than everything out in the open. But still, all right. My GitHub account is TP Chantal. All right. Oh, yeah, if you want, yeah, for the project too, you'll need your email for the to get access to the Miro board. I believe, unless I share the link again. Let me try sharing the link in the chat because I believe I did that last week and it actually worked out pretty good for somebody. Was that you, Brendan? Or no? Or was it? I think it might have been Jose. Let me see. Hmm. Yeah, copy the team invite link. There we go. Oh, all right. There we go.
Did have one other thing I wanted to ask about the project. I was just wondering, so as I've mentioned, I recently graduated from a different coding boot camp, and I'm wondering if if you're okay with it, I could ask some of my fellow graduates if they wanted to get involved, because I'm just thinking if we could actually get this to production and monetize, not that we're going to make any actual profit off of it, but that's just something that um so much of our, so when we're in our job search, um just one disadvantage is of coming out of a boot camp is since you learn this so fast, you don't have a long history of fully developed projects. So if we could get this to an actual production phase, that's a really good thing to put on a resume, even though it's not not for a. I
Right. Like the more
don't know if
things
it's
you
ever.
build, yeah, the better. I
Yeah,
don't mind if you invite them. That's fine. I mean, because I have um I have this network or this community I'm building here on Discord, and I like when I like the more people we can get on here, the more active people are. I think the better. So like, yeah, if you want to invite them and send me their info or let me know, maybe I could send you or so that way I could send them a link, or maybe give them there's links out there somewhere, you know what I mean? Or I could share with you the link for the Discord, and then they can come to the Discord, or and then we can share those resources with them. They can and I can get them added to the project. I don't mind as long as I know who they are. Like all you got to do is tell me who they are coming in, because I have people coming in every day, so that way I know who they are. I can identify them and send them the information.
yeah. I'm not sure if I don't know whether or not they would be interested, but I can check because it just seems because I
Yeah,
mean a lot of them. It just I mean the problem is you come out of these boot camp programs, you're gonna forget everything if you don't keep
if you're
working
not
on it.
applying it, yeah, that's what I try to tell
And
everybody.
so yeah,
Is that
so
you have
I
to
want.
keep applying it and keep learning and going over everything. Like you have to stay involved. Like you can't just think because you got that certificate you're good to go. You got to keep
Yeah,
going.
so if some of them are in that situation where they're, even if they don't have a lot of time to contribute, if they're just looking for some way to keep their skills up, it might be a good thing for them to do.
All right. All right. So, um, yeah, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I don't mind that. I think that's cool. All right. Yeah, yeah, and I'd welcome them. I think that'll be cool, especially we got more people interested. Especially if they're like hungry like that, we're probably gonna get more people active on it, um, and then we can get the project going. Me, I just like I told somebody before. Someone said, I guess somebody in the past asked if well, why don't I build it? And I said, well, if I build it, it defeats the purpose of a group project, because like I can have everybody here every week and they can watch me build it from scratch. But how is that helping anybody else? You know what I mean? Like, it might be entertainment. I like the way I see it as, right? Because you can watch me build the whole thing, and maybe you'll learn from watching. But the most of your learning is you're gonna learn from building, actually putting it into practice and contributing something. And then the bonus of contributing is that at the end of it, it goes on your resume, and then even if and if somehow whatever project it is succeeded, well, then you're a contributor on that project. We can choose however we want to, whatever we want to do with it at that point. Um, you know what I mean? Like, say we all built something that went big time. Well, then that's all of us that were contributors, that were actively contributing, that are able to take advantage of that. But if nothing happens, well, oh wow, you built a group project with a good group of people, and you have that experience, and a lot of people don't have that experience. Like most people, they put projects on their resume that they built by themselves, and then a lot of those projects they copy and paste it off the net. But like a project like this is like something we can put on a resume that we built legitly in a group, and we don't have any biases. Like, you know what I mean? We didn't know each other except for this group, and we all have different level of experiences, and we're all contributing, and then we're able to show that and talk how we were all able to work together, what we use for VCS or version control, which is GitHub, and learning Git. Like you should be learning Git, GitHub, like besides just developing or writing code in Visual Studio Code. Like there's a lot that goes into it. And then like if you need help, then you can reach out on the network or on the community here and ask. Like maybe you're making a contribution and you're stuck. Well, then reach out to us. You know, somebody will answer you, or I'll answer you as soon as I got time. I'll answer you. So there's really like no excuse for anybody not wanting to contribute. And I was trying to take those excuses away, especially like because I can understand a legit excuse being that I don't know JavaScript like that, so I don't know how to contribute to that. So that's why I wanted to um, I guess like make it simplified and make it more beginner friendly. I guess water it down. I guess I could say, because technically when you're a beginner, you're gonna need to be learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, how to differentiate between those and how to build all that out. Because when you get eventually go into a framework like React, you're gonna be learning JSX and applying styling to that, whether it's external or inline. It's usually inline if it's something like what do you call that one I just mentioned? Uh, it's a CSS framework, but anyway, or even Bootstrap because React Strap. They'll call it React Strap, where you combine Bootstrap with React. That's front end stuff. The other one was that I was thinking about. It's a common one, and I can't remember it. I just said it not too long ago. But like that one, there's a lot of inline CSS too. But like either way, however you're gonna do it, it's a different animal when you're writing React code compared to writing HTML or CSS at that level. And it's really good if you have like really strong in your JavaScript skills. It makes it easier for you to read or to learn React syntax and then be able to start developing a project in React, because those that's really the tech stack that most people, or the framework that is the most hireable right now. I believe it's the most popular, the most hireable. But there are Angular jobs out there. There are Vue.js, but the majority of them are in web development are React developer roles. Um, so I hope that helps to some extent. So I know you said something about in the chat. I think it was Brendan. You said maybe as an idea and I was gonna ask you just real quick more information on that because I remember I put out on the chat. I believe it was with the chat. Yeah, let me look at the chat. I put out in the chat if anybody had any interest or anything that they want to go over during the events, like any topics or anything. Like it could be anything. Maybe there's something you want to learn more about, or maybe we can go over something, do something together when we have extra time. And then Brendan posted to make a professional looking portfolio website. So discuss how to make that. So like, what did you mean? Like more specifically, like were you meaning like design, or you mean more like did you mean more like in a general sense, or do you mean like get into like the details of it, like more like designing and planning and before you get into the choice of something like a framework, the code?
Yeah, I guess I was thinking, just kind of in general, what to include, and kind of how to present it. You have um, and just kind of just the
Yeah,
general idea of how do you present how do you make a portfolio website that shows that I can do this and you should hire me. I'm not just some random person that figured out how to write a little bit of code.
yeah. Um, I the number one thing I've heard and that I've learned or that I've used was unique. So like something that's unique. Like it's a portfolio website, but it's not. It's one that is your unique design, your unique touch, and it has information that's personal to you. It's not like it content just copy and paste it anywhere. It's like um, and then because like uh, let me look really quick. All right, someone sent me a friend request. All right, so um, that's like more unique because you want the project to stand out because like you see a lot of portfolio websites out there and you can tell the ones that um, I guess somebody copy and pasted code because you can see the different styles of code written in it. Like for example, if I were to examine your code base, am I going to see the same fingerprint across the code? Like in other words, is it going to be your fingerprint across the code, or is it, or am I going to see different styles of or different fingerprints? I call them fingerprints because like when you start writing code, you're going to have like a style basically, like one that the way you write code, it's going to look pretty uniform. Um, but the way I think about it is that I can identify because of the experience when you have multiple snippets of code coming from different places. And then I can also identify, well, that could make sense if you're using third-party libraries, right? Because you're basically borrowing someone else's code and you're incorporating it or integrating it into your project for some type of functionality that you didn't want to build out by yourself. But I think like for the portfolio website, um, you want to use the libraries that make sense and you want to build out the code that makes sense. But you can tell when like for example on code that's written where um, like code that's written where it's not from third party sources but it's got different fingerprints on it. That's when you could tell they probably went to Stack Overflow and they're cutting and pasting like crazy. And you can see that, but you can see that with experience. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
or if it has if it has ChatGPT's fingerprint on it, I bet you see that a lot, right? Because
yeah,
it
you
has
can
a
see that
very
too. Yeah,
specific style of writing code.
yeah, ChatGPT, yeah, it does. So like ChatGPT or any of those AI platforms, depending on what LLM they've got, that they're working with. Yeah, they got like a certain style depending on what you're asking it to do, and a lot of the tools that it incorporates into the code. Like usually the logic's not 100%, or normally the logic's not 100%. The logic's usually around like 52%, I think the data showed. So like the new camp did found an article where some people, they did a study on chat gpt and human beings to see if AI was more capable than human beings, and human beings are of course were more capable, and chat gpt was only correct like 52% of the time. But besides that, Chat GPT doesn't know how to optimize code because like it gives the illusion like it can think and process information like a human, but it's not. It's just stringing tokens together. So like they're called tokens. So like these words, they're being even each individual character. There's like a whole system that's pretty complex. But basically, if we think about it in simple terms, like a word, for example, is broken down into a token, and then all it's doing is taking the token and guessing basically based on data what the next best token should be in this string of text that it's producing, and it's doing that with code too, just tokens. So it's all just a bunch of numbers it's processing, stringing together one after the other. It's not actually able to read and comprehend it and then think of a plan and then execute on that plan, and like it doesn't process information like a human. And you can see that, like you can see that especially with experience, you can see that. So it's really more accurate with text generation than it is code generation, and it's usually using code or methods of like if you use JavaScript, it's usually using like those built-in methods for JavaScript that are that maybe were overkill, or the time and space complexity was too high for the solution. There's a better alternative. Like it's not as good as people think with code optimization. Um, it could have used something simpler and faster, and it didn't. Um, like there's a difference between imperative and declarative programming, like I tell people, and ChatGTP likes to use a lot of declarative approaches to their solutions, and so that's like one indicator. But there's a lot of indicators. So like yeah, you can see a lot of it in there. I don't know if it's like I'm like Brendan, like you're saying, if you're paying attention or if you're using NLPs on the net while you're learning or while you're coding, then eventually you're gonna be able to identify that stuff. Most people can't identify, or most people that are beginners, because they haven't even fully developed their own fingerprint or their own I don't know style of coding, I guess you could say. And then you gotta have the knowledge that goes behind that, like of all the complex concepts and how how you should be making them work together, and and other topics like what's the best way to optimize this code, or other topics like data structures and algorithms and how to analyze them with big O analysis and knowing time and space complexity, and what I can do to make my code faster or better, more performant. Like those are things that Chat GPT can't do, and those are things that a human can do. And but you have to have the right training to be able to do that. And then once you're at that level, you can kind of see. I don't know. It's just it makes it things a lot easier to identify when there's. Um, it's hard to explain, but it's a lot of things that come with the experience of it. And then you're eventually able to identify those things. But yeah, you can see it. It's like if you're copying and pasting off the net, and you think you can slide that by somebody with experience, that's probably why you're not getting the interviews, because they probably viewed your project and viewed the code and they said, nah, they already see what's going on there. So like that's why I tell people you have to be more unique than that. And even in your portfolio project, like my portfolio project, I wrote it all myself, and I used third-party libraries where I thought I could get away with that, and I update it once in a while. But I've showed it to people too, my portfolio website. But I only put the sections that I thought, like if I share my screen real quick, that I thought that were necessary information for employers if they wanted to hire me at the time. So let me go live real quick. And I didn't use React or nothing like that because I felt like um, at the time that I built it, I felt like I had too many projects built in other things, and this one right here, I think, yeah, this one. So like it has a different animation depending on if you're looking at it on, like, if I go back, let me go back really quick, and then I'll show you the different viewport size. So like if we're looking at it like on a mobile viewport, it could be small. Even the small one, if we reload the page, you'll see it. The animation changes, and it's got this drop down menu, and everything's fully responsive. However you want to look at it, it should be everything should fit on the screen pretty nicely. And then it's got my resume, about me, my resume where you can download it. But even when it's not on the phone, when you go into tablet, if we show it in tablet, let me reload it just to make sure. When you go into tablet, it's gonna have some type of navigation. The about me is pretty big there, but this is just the layout I chose. I could fix that, make the picture smaller, maybe, now that I'm looking at it. Look at that, because I have a tablet at home, it doesn't look as extreme. It's because I'm viewing it on my big screen. But even if we go to laptop and we go home and then we reload it, you'll see the animation is different for the links. And depending on how big your viewport is, and then we have the about, and this one looks a little better on, it looks better on laptop, I think, in my opinion, because not everything has to stack for the mobile viewport. And then, but past the resume and all that stuff, we have education section that talks about my education and my educational objectives, things I'm learning at the university I attend for computer science and artificial intelligence. And then we have my student innovation project that I'm building that's going to be a project that I plan on monetizing. And then uh, um, I have my a couple projects that I've listed here that just that I thought should be okay for putting out here, like a couple um, um, NLPs that I built, like AI that I built, and some other projects that I built, and then I have my contact page. I did have before, like before I started my company, Dark Mode Devs, I did have a section where I would show where it was more like for freelancing, where it was a services page and it talk about my services. But I've changed it just to have about me, read things that I think that maybe the employer would want to know if they were trying to look at me as a candidate. But like my website, I try to make it like more my personality, have that like techie kind of tech feel to it, kind of like I don't know how to describe it, but like it's just something that I felt like is my personality or my style versus like something that um you would see anywhere else, I guess you could say. I don't know. And seeing those, you're gonna see things like that out there on the net where you have these sliders that animate and all these numbers, like all these different animations. But you could you could tell if you're coding them yourself, or like I said, or if you've borrowed them from somewhere. Um, but me, I like to incorporate because I could build that myself if I wanted to, and go through the trouble of writing the code for that because I have before. But like things like that, especially like the animation on the front here with these with the social media icons, like if you click on them, they all work. It'll take you to like my LinkedIn page or whatnot. Um, but what I was saying is that I could have built that animation if I wanted to with CSS or JavaScript or both, but I didn't. I used the JavaScript library to do it just because I wanted to show that I know how to integrate third-party libraries and things like that. So like that's always a good thing to show because when you go into like when I was at the apprenticeship and we're looking at websites or projects that were higher level, a lot of them were using third-party sources. So like it's good to show that you understand that. But have the sections that are relevant. But like yeah, like most of us know what sections are relevant, I guess you could say, for a portfolio project. But I would say the number one key is that your personality and like it's unique and it shows you your personality and it's got things on there for you like what you know what I mean. I don't know how to explain that. Like it just shows your character, your personality, your unique touch, like the design and the look and feel of it. Like for his or like if you like cats and you want to incorporate that in your portfolio, find little touches of or maybe a design, touches or strategies that incorporate that into your portfolio project. You know what I mean? In some way that still looks professional. Like you can do all that. Like anybody can do that. You just be creative. Um, Instead of like I would say, because like when you go and you build the same thing everyone else is building, it's boring. It gets boring. And then you're not going to stand out. Like for me, if I was hiring somebody, I'm going to look for that unique touch, something really unique and creative, because I like that unique design in my projects. Like if we build a project for a client, I want it to look really really unique. I want it to stand out and look unique, different than all how all these other websites look on the internet or all these apps look on the mobile. It's like if you look at them, a lot of them they look like they were all cut from the same cookie cutter, like they're cookie cutter websites. Like they're all cut from the same cloth, I guess I could say. Like they all look the same, and I get tired of that. That's boring. Like I like to put like some make it unique, more unique than that. So I would want somebody with a unique eye for design that has that unique creativity like that and then knows how to transition that creativity into code. So just think about that. Like think about that. And then other than that, like people are looking for top talent like with logic. So like some coding places, most of them they want top talent in logic. Like if you're writing logic, especially back end logic, or you're designing or building logic or data structures, like for solutions, they want the best of the best. So like whoever's applying, they take the best of all of them. So if there's like 300 applicants, well, they're gonna look for the best one out of all of them. And then you got the thing that I think sucks is that they've got entry level they have entry level jobs where you have people that are beyond entry level applying for those jobs competing with you and they already have experience and then they're probably taking that person because of their experience and they're willing to take a pay cut just to get the job, and I think that kind of sucks because I think that type of job should be reserved for somebody that's actually entry level or that is just like their first role. But yeah, it's just is what it is. The market's a little weird right now, but I wouldn't let that hold you back on learning. Well, we're over. We're about 5 minutes over almost, and I'm still yakking. So, thank you guys for showing up and coming, and thank you, Brendan, for the changes. And then I hope you guys all have a blessed Sunday. And then Jose, me and you can stay on here for a little bit so we can talk about whatever it is you wanted to talk about. see you next week. I'm gonna end the event and then end the recording.